I am Bill Hodges, and this is Spotlight on Government. And I have with me the CEO of the Crisis Center, Clara Reynolds.
Hello, good afternoon, Bill. It's nice to see you.
You know, this is not the first time we've been together on the air.
No, I have the pleasure of your company another time.
Not too long ago, I called the Florida Department of Veterans Affairs and talked to Al Clark, the assistant director there, and I said, I'd like to have somebody on talking about crisis, because so many of our vets are having problems. And he said, boy, do I have a name for you. And he gave me Clara's name, and you came on the show. We had so much fun doing that show.
We did.
You know, it's hard to say we had fun doing crisis things.
Well, we did, though. It was a really great opportunity, and such a great opportunity to connect with an audience that may not have known about the services at the Crisis Center, specifically for veterans.
And you have so many more.
Yes, yes, sir.
Let's just look at what veteran services you offer, and then we'll spread out from there.
Of course. So one of the things that we were able to do in 2014 timeframe was to create the Veteran Support Line. That number is 1-844-MY-FL-VET. And it was really the brainchild of some of our staff at the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay. In 2012, 2013, we were getting calls from veterans in our community looking for help and support. And so when they would call us and they would engage with us, one of the things that they would ask is, you know, Clara, are you a veteran? And when I had to say no, they were very gracious, would thank us, but then they'd hang up.
Yeah,
because
really.
I can't relate to what a veteran goes through.
Exactly.
So we recognized we were missing.
Even the language is different.
The language, the experience, the culture, all of that is very different. So we recognized at that point. And we also were seeing research that was coming out telling us that 22 veterans a day were killing themselves. If somebody hangs up on me, that's a chance that I won't connect with that individual.
That's right, or nobody may.
Exactly.
If it didn't work for you, maybe they won't call anybody else.
Exactly. So we lobbied the Florida Department of Veterans Affairs. We were able to get a appropriation from the Florida legislature to create this line. Now, not only is this line a specialized line, but really the secret sauce, if you will, is that we have veteran peers. So it's a veteran talking to another veteran, a veteran that understands, who has walked the walk, has lived the life. And so when we have veterans, like a veteran, Mickey, who called us last January, who was about to be homeless, our veteran peer, Jamie, was really able to ask that second question. Certainly we can help you with your rent assistance, but why are you about to lose your apartment? Several iterations later, it was to find out that Mickey was suffering from PTSD symptoms and just couldn't get out of bed. Providing Mickey with rent assistance was not going to help the PTSD triggers that he was dealing with. So we were able to intervene and provide not just rent support to help right now, but also the counseling program to be able to assist him further.
You know, an awful lot of people look at PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome,
Disorder, yes, sir.
as being something made up.
Oh, it's absolutely not.
But it's not.
It is as real as diabetes. It's as real as heart disease. It is an absolute disease of the brain, that the brain has had to change its chemistry because of experiences that someone has had.
Well, you know, they say, well, World War II, they came back and everybody just went back into their jobs and so forth. But think about it. What happens today is that troop gets sent to Afghanistan. Every trash can he passes.
Right.
Every time he sees a child sitting on a corner, it could be a child with a grenade in his hand.
Right.
Now he comes back here after his year.
Right.
And everybody says, war, you've been to war? What war? Because most of us aren't affected at all
And we don't
by
have
what's
any sense
happening
of
in
that.
Afghanistan or
Absolutely.
Iraq or that.
Other than what's on TV. We don't see the day-to-day stress, the day-to-day struggles that happen.
But every time he walks past a trash can, every time he sees a kid sitting on a corner, he's been preconditioned to say, oh, wait a minute,
Or
that could blow up and kill me.
Absolutely, or he smells a smell, or she hears a sound. Any of those things will trigger the brain to take you right back into that situation. You're flooded with adrenaline, you're flooded with all sorts of hormones and cortisones, and it's no wonder that our veterans come back and they have a struggle. They have a difficult time re-engaging back into the community.
But when we do get them re-engaged back in the community, we say, okay, we're sending you back over.
Right.
Some of these folks have been there 6 and 7 times.
And that's
for a
whole,
year at a time.
Absolutely. And those veterans, and not just the veterans. I mean, the other beautiful thing about our line is that it also serves the family members, because that veteran is coming back. They're coming back to a family. And as I like
Which
to
is done without them for whatever period of time.
Absolutely. So you bring somebody back who's experienced all of these things, who truly believes they don't want to share it with their family, but their family is suffering along with them. So we have spouses that call, we have children that call, we have grandparents and friends that call us, trying to figure out how they can support their veteran. And our veterans are able to then be able to relate to those individuals how they can help.
You know, I never thought of that for a crisis line. I keep thinking a personal crisis, it's my crisis, but a grandparent,
Yes.
a child, even a friend calling and saying, my friend is doing this.
Right.
Should I be worried?
Absolutely. And so not just with veterans, you know, we are so proud to have that veteran support line, but we also run several other lines here in Hillsborough County. We are the 211 designated provider for information and referral. 211 is a FCC Federal Communications designation, and so we own it at the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay. So no matter where you are, if you call 211, you're going to get one of our folks 24 hours a day, 7 days a week that can help you with any kind of information and referral that you need. We believe we are the community's gateway to finding help, hope, and healing.
So that's 211.
211, yes, sir.
And if I dial 211 and somebody comes on the line,
Yes,
what
sir.
kind of questions can I ask them?
You can ask them any question under the sun. We have people that will call us looking for assistance with rent, like Mickey did. We have individuals that are struggling with food. But we also have individuals that are new to the community, maybe have a 5-year-old with some developmental challenges and need to understand how they can get help and support. We can make those connections for you.
Are these lines confidential?
They are confidential. They are anonymous. You can be anyone that you want to be when you pick up the phone. And I think you talked about a really good point that I want to make. You know, we have individuals that will call us on behalf of a friend. We'll have other clergy members that will call our phone on behalf of a parishioner saying, I just want to be able to help this individual. Can you role play with me? We do those types of activities all the time. Absolutely. And because we're 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we're available whenever your crisis is. I think there's a misnomer when people talk about crisis. It doesn't mean that you are on the top of a bridge getting ready to jump. A crisis is a life problem that needs a solution. We're the ones that can help you find the solution to whatever your life's problem is.
Parents drinking too much?
Parents drinking too much. You have a child that has some substance abuse issues. We're very fortunate. We answer the state substance abuse hotline. So we get about 36,000 calls a year from people all over the state.
How many calls total do you get?
Oh my gosh, we will answer the phone about 110,000 times a year.
How many people do you have answering phones?
You know, it's a great question because we've got individuals based upon the time of day and the day of the week. I will tell you Mondays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. our busiest time of the week. Individuals have
Monday 10 to 2.
Monday 10 to 2 because folks have had the weekend. Maybe something has transpired over the weekend. They wake up on Monday, they perseverate over things, and they pick up the phone to call us. So usually our top staffing is on Mondays from 10 to 2, where we have about 24 people. But we always have at least 3 people available to answer calls 24/7. So in addition to 211, in addition to the state substance abuse hotline and the veteran support line, we also answer...
Now, the veteran support hotline is what number?
1-844-MY-FL-VET, and that's the state, that is the veteran support line. So in addition to all of those, we also answer the National Suicide Hotline, and that number is 1-800-273-TALK. So if somebody calls that 800 number and they're within Hillsborough County, those calls are directed to us. So 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, if you walk into our call center, there is a special ring that happens when there's a phone call coming in on that line, and we all immediately make sure that we're ready and available. And it's not just one person, it's another person. 2 people have to do those calls because you don't know if somebody is contemplating suicide or actually has a gun in their hand and is about to complete a suicide.
Or shoot someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. So we want to make sure we've got a partner there that can engage law enforcement enforcement if we have to do what we call an active rescue.
Are the calls recorded?
The calls can be, it has a recording feature. We will only engage that recording either for training purposes, and you would know that, or if it is indeed an emergency where we're going to have to do active rescue, we absolutely want to record those calls to make sure that when we get a 911 operator, we're giving them the most accurate information possible so that we can get law enforcement out as quickly as we can.
Boy, that sounds awful busy.
It is very busy, and we run a couple of other lines. We have a specialty line for teens ages 16 to 25 that are struggling with behavioral health issues.
By the way, if I forget all these phone numbers,
Yes,
if
sir.
I dial 211,
You dial 211,
will
you
they
can
put
get
me where I want to go?
Absolutely. It will take you exactly where you want to go because every one of our folks is trained to answer questions, and particularly for our veterans, if you call 211, we're going to ask you, are you a veteran and would you like to speak to a veteran peer? If you say yes, we will transfer you immediately to a veteran peer. So again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you can call 211.
I didn't mean to stop you. You have
No,
some other services.
I appreciate
so go right
that.
ahead. But
No.
people get sometimes confused.
Of course.
Especially if they're older or they're in a condition where PTSD or any
Right.
of those things.
They're just in
And
crisis.
Just remembering 211
That's all you have to remember.
is a good thing to do.
Yes, sir. 911 for an acute emergency, pretty much 211 for everything else. And we
All
can
right.
help to connect. And again, we are the community's gateway. We're the ones responsible for making sure that all of the amazing community resources we have in Hillsborough County are kept up to date. We know what the requirements are. We understand the insurance. We understand all of that. So you don't have to go to a resource guide and you don't have to Google. You can call 211 and we're going to make sure you get connected where you need to go. That's the first thing that we do, again, that gateway to let folks come into the system. But we also have some other specialty programs that nobody else in our community does. We are the community's certified rape crisis center. So when a rape or a sexual assault occurs in Hillsborough County, law enforcement will transport those individuals to us.
Oh, really?
We have a clinic on site that has a nurse, a certified sexual assault nurse examiner who is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, along with an advocate. And they work hand in hand to help victims of sexual assault move from being victims to becoming survivors of sexual assault.
Wow.
So we process about a rape a day. We did 360
Really?
rape exams last
That
year.
many?
That many. And I will tell you, for those of you that are listening,
That's just Hillsborough County.
That is just Hillsborough County. And Bill, what's even more troubling is that only represents a third of the sexual assaults that occur in our community every year. We're only seeing a third. That means there's 2/3 of people out there that are walking around, have experienced one of the most brutal crimes to them, and they never reach out and get help. You know, they're afraid of being judged, there's stigma around it, there's self-blame. We want to let those individuals know that they can come to us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're going to believe you, we're going to listen to you, and we're going to move you from being that victim to being that survivor.
Wow. I used to work with the police department up in Ohio and had the opportunity once to go on a rape call.
Oh.
And I
Then
just sat in the
know.
background and I listened. This officer was highly trained.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fantastic the way he handled this lady, help her understand that it wasn't her fault, and got as much information as he could from her. It was really, really well done.
And
So
we are very fortunate in this community to have wonderful partners like Sheriff Chronister with Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department, like Chief Dugan with Tampa Police Department. Certainly, Andrew Warren in our state attorney's office has been an incredible champion for us to make sure that we bring justice to those victims. So we are so fortunate to have such wonderful governmental partners that can really help us.
what if somebody feels that they have been taken advantage of? I'm going to use the word rape at this moment in this particular instance.
Mm-hmm.
And they really just want to know, and it would seem to me that you ought to be able to say this is rape, but maybe they aren't sure. Maybe they feel like, well, you know, I led the guy on, I let him come back in my apartment, we did drink.
Right.
You know, is this rape?
Right.
Can they call you with that kind of
211.
question?
They could absolutely call me with through 211. We will process that through with them, and if they decide that they want to come in, we can bring them in. what is
Can
oftentimes
they do
a
that
misconception.
anonymously?
Absolutely. Oh, of course. What is a misconception is that if you've been a victim of a rape or a sexual assault, you are not required to contact law enforcement. So many times we have individuals that will just come to the crisis center and they're not ready to call law enforcement because maybe it was their spouse that abused them. Maybe it was a close family friend. They want to get the treatment. They want to start getting not only the physical treatment,
Or a family member,
and the emotional support, but they're not ready to contact law enforcement. We're the ones in our community that are certified to do what's called a rape kit, and that is a very specific way of gathering evidence that can be used in court.
And that should be done immediately.
Immediately,
correct?
yes. We can do it up to 120 hours after a sexual assault has happened. The technology is absolutely brilliant right now, and so we can gather DNA evidence on somebody up to 120 hours after a rape has happened. So if you come into us and you say, I've been sexually assaulted, I want to be examined, but I'm not ready to call law enforcement, that's absolutely okay. We're going to hold on to that evidence for you up to a year, and we'll keep checking back in with you. Because oftentimes when we work with an advocate, that advocate will help that individual with exactly the doubts that you brought up in your example. You're a victim of a crime, and it doesn't matter what you were wearing. It doesn't matter what you were drinking. It doesn't matter where it was. You were a victim of a crime. You should not take the blame. It is the person that perpetrated against you that should own that blame. But it takes a while with victims of sexual assault because
Because of the way our
stigma,
society.
exactly, stigma and stereotypes and all of that garbage. What we work with is our advocates are trained to really make sure you understand what your rights are and that you're a victim of a crime that you didn't ask for. It takes a while for many of our survivors, but we help to get them to that place. And then when they're ready, if they want to reach out to law enforcement, we can do that.
Well, that makes it a lot simpler for them.
Absolutely.
To make the decision to at least do something.
At least do something. So as I mentioned, we've got this 120 hours. After that 120 hours, we may not be able to pull physical evidence, but we encourage any survivor of sexual assault to give us a call because there's so many services we can offer them. Advocacy, support, certainly therapeutic interventions. If they need to help moving because they're in a situation where they don't feel safe, we can help with all of those things. And so we will help another 500 to 600 individuals a year that have been sexually assaulted at some point in their life that are now ready for help and support. So again, 120 hours, we can do that rape kit, we can do that rape exam, but that's not all we do. If you've been raped, maybe at 130 hours ago or 30 years ago, you can still reach out and call us and we can provide you with help and support.
I think it's important to understand that it's not just now.
It's not just now.
If something happened to you somewhere in the past, it's still bugging you.
Right.
And you need to talk to somebody.
Right.
These folks will provide that service.
Right, and we do both males and females because males can be sexually assaulted as well. Even though in our head and our stereotype it's female, we absolutely have male victims that come in, and we provide that service for anyone 13 and up. For younger children, they go through the child protection team through the University of South Florida. We partner with the Department of Pediatrics on those cases, but we do all of the cases 13 and up. So anybody who's been sexually assaulted 13 and up and you want some help and support, we can provide that.
What about physically assaulted or mentally assaulted?
So we get victims of trauma, and a trauma is really anything that has happened that is causing you an adverse effect. We run a trauma counseling center to help those victims that are struggling to get past that physical assault, victims who have witnessed a domestic violence situation. We had a set of young boys who were ages 4 and 6. They had gone with their father to the local 7-Eleven after dinner just to get some ice cream. That 7-Eleven was held up at gunpoint, and the clerk was murdered in front of these boys.
Ouch.
So for these boys, they were absolutely traumatized, and it started with they couldn't go anywhere near that 7-Eleven near their home. Because again, PTSD, they were replaying everything. And then their symptoms, their anxiety spread. They couldn't go to a gas station without breaking down. They couldn't go into the Publix without breaking down. Dad brought those boys to us. We were able to provide in a very short amount of time Oh, absolutely. In a very short amount of time, through our evidence-based trauma counseling services that we provide, all with licensed clinicians, we were able to move those boys from that point where they couldn't go into that 7-Eleven. And about 16 sessions later, so about 4 months later, their graduation was to go back to that 7-Eleven with their dad
Get the ice
after
cream.
dinner and buy ice cream. And they were able to do it. They were able to do it, and they could talk about what happened without it completely dominating their life. And that is the strength of the evidence-based trauma counseling that we provide.
Now, is this something that people are charged for?
No,
They come in?
no, absolutely not.
All this counseling is for free?
This counseling, we do bill insurance, but if somebody doesn't have insurance, we are very fortunate to have donors that support us. Our county government supports us. So we are very lucky that we can quilt together funding so that nobody is turned away.
So it's not an income-based
It's
type
not an
thing.
income-based, no, sir. And we have 4 locations for this. So we have a facility in North Tampa, in West Tampa, in South Tampa, and in Brandon. So we'll provide about 7,000 therapy sessions in a given year, most of those with children, and we can work with children as young as 18 months that are experiencing trauma symptoms. And we know they're experiencing trauma symptoms because they're developing fine, they're walking, they're talking or babbling. A traumatic event happens, and all of a sudden they have completely regressed. That's how we know that a trauma has happened. So we'll work with their caretaker to help move that baby through that trauma process. It's amazing, unbelievable work, all based in science and evidence, and we're able to do that, again, thanks to the support of so many folks in our community.
I've been sitting here thinking as you're speaking that there are a lot of instances where either the male or female in a relationship, marriage particularly, does not feel they have the income to be able to get out of this bad situation.
Correct.
But they could come to you and get some help
Absolutely.
and get on their feet.
Right. And I would encourage anybody, if they're in that situation, call 211. Let us start that process with you. We work very closely with the Spring of Tampa Bay, for instance. So it may be that your journey starts at the Spring, but then you come to us for some trauma counseling once you're out of that situation and you're safe. We really work very hard to partner around the community with amazing resources to make sure that whenever you call us, that we're able to connect you with the right service at the right time in the right amount.
And just about any kind of resource.
Any kind of resource, any kind of resource.
I know you have some other services that you provide.
We do.
And we're running a little lower on time,
Okay,
so
so
let's
thank
move
you.
on to some of those
Yes,
things.
sir. So thank you. So
You have an ambulance service.
I
do
do
you
have,
not?
because we don't do enough. We need to run a 911 basic life support ambulance service. So we partner with the City of Tampa and Tampa Fire Rescue. When an individual calls 911 because they're having a medical emergency, when they call 911, they're triaged through a system. If they meet what is considered a lower level or a non-life-threatening emergency, they will dispatch us. And so TransCare is our 911 basic life support ambulance service.
So ALS, they send out the paramedics.
Correct.
Otherwise, they're going to take
They're going
you.
to take me.
Advanced life services, by the way.
Advanced life support or basic life support. Correct.
I tendency to catch my guests using terms like that. And
I apologize. Thank you for catching me on that.
I did it.
I was probably going to do it as well.
I went with ALS right off the bat.
Gotcha. So we'll transport about 24,000 people across the city of Tampa to area hospitals. We are able to bill insurance for that service because if you have insurance, ambulance coverage is a standard port.
What if you don't have insurance?
If you don't have insurance, then we're not going to bill you for it.
Really?
Yeah. So because
Even if I have the funds to pay it?
we may send you. We'll reach out to you and say, hey, can you pay this? But if you demonstrate to us you don't have an ability to pay, we're not taking you to collections. The reason why is because we believe that there's no bigger crisis than when you call 911 in a medical emergency. So we're going to provide that transportation. But the other thing that TransCare is for us, it is our social enterprise. When you're open 24 hours a day, when you're serving 160,000 people, it takes money to be able to do that. And we're very fortunate to have government grants and contracts. Hillsborough County government is an incredible supporter of ours. The Children's Board of Hillsborough County, as you mentioned, Florida Department of Veterans Affairs, Department of Children and Families. We have an incredible fundraising arm because we need the community support, but TransCare provides that third leg of that three-legged funding stool.
I guess, yeah.
So we bill insurance, and that will generate profits around $700,000 that we can use to keep the doors open, to keep the lights on, and to pay folks like me
And
to let
keep the
communities-
taxpayers from having to pick up the fee.
Absolutely.
We're really lucky out in Sun City Center. We have the emergency squad out there.
Yes, you do.
Which I could be wrong, but I think it's the largest volunteer
It is.
emergency squad in the entire country.
And I just saw Noreen yesterday. We were at a community meeting together. They do an amazing amount of work down in Sun City, and they work in partnership with Hillsborough County Fire Rescue.
Because they
down
don't
there.
bill either.
Correct.
They don't even have a billing department.
Correct. All of it is free, and you all in Sun City Center do a beautiful job of supporting that. If without that community support, they wouldn't be able to do it. Just like the Crisis Center can't operate without that community
That's
support.
true. And that's why Spotlight on Government has you on the program.
And I
because
so appreciate
government is
that.
providing the funds for you to be able to do so many different services.
Yes, sir.
What have we missed? We've got about 2 minutes to go.
Perfect. The last thing I want to mention is that in addition to the ambulance services that we provide, we also provide van transport for individuals that are having a psychiatric or a substance abuse emergency to get them where they need to go so we don't have to tie in law enforcement. So law enforcement doesn't have to transport those individuals, we'll do it for them. And it gets law enforcement back out on the street so that they can do the great job that they do every day.
So how does that work?
So if an individual is a danger to themselves or other, the officer goes, he starts the paperwork process for involuntary commitment, and then they'll call us to do that transport.
One final thing, do you use volunteers?
We do use volunteers.
And if you use volunteers, what kind of volunteers are you looking for?
So we have, one of the programs I did not mention is that we run a program at the airport called Traveler's Aid. We'll help about 500 travelers a year, or a week, excuse me, 500 travelers a week, help them through different crises. That is all volunteer driven.
Really?
That's all volunteer run 7 days a week. We have volunteers in our sexual assault services area.
What kind of problems do people have at the airport?
Oh my gosh, so we had
Besides lost luggage.
Yeah, well, we had a couple that had lost their flight to Germany had been canceled. They had purchased some things. They needed help figuring it out, how to be able to get their merchandise. One of my favorite stories was a grandmother that was flying out to Phoenix, Arizona to visit grandchildren. Grandchildren love goldfish, and so she had 2 goldfish in plastic bags. They were more than 2 ounces of water. She couldn't take them on the plane. Her crisis was, what am I going to do with these goldfish? We kept her goldfish for 2 weeks while she was in Phoenix. So we'll do anything from an individual that comes to us because they're thinking that they're coming to meet their future husband or wife.
So what number should they call?
211.
211 if they want to volunteer?
If they want to volunteer, they can call 211. We can connect them to our help and support. And the last thing is that I want to make sure individuals in our community know we run tours of the Crisis Center. So if you want to learn more about what we do, come take a tour. We do them over lunch.
And dial 211 to get on the tour, right?
Or you can go to our website, www.crisiscenter.com.
We'll put that up.
And it says, take a tour. We run tours a couple of times a month. I'll give you a fabulous public sandwich, but you can see everything in action. You can
Phyllis
go
and I'll
in.
be out for a tour.
I look forward to it.
Clara Reynolds,
Thank you,
Crisis
Bill.
Center, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you, sir.
I'm Bill Hodges. This has been Spotlight on Government. You're unique, you're special, and you're great. Tell yourself so often because you are, you know. And we'll see you on the next Spotlight on Government. And again, Clara, CEO of the Crisis Center, you've done a great job as usual.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity.